Baldwin County Commission is very proud to bring to you, the citizens of Baldwin County, the following regular meeting of the County Commission and other documentaries, reenactments, and special informational programs. DVDs are available from the Baldwin County Department of Archives and History, located at 305 East 2nd Street in Bay Minette, Alabama. Our phone number is area code 251-580-1897.
Every day, from the beaches to the farms to the towns, you're affected by the decisions that are made by the Baldwin County Commission. Your Baldwin County Commissioners invite you now to see your county government at work. From the county seat in Bay Minette, this is your Baldwin County Commission.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 6, 2010 meeting of the Baldwin County Commission. And at this time, I'd like to ask Father Ernie Heidman from the St. Agatha Catholic Church here in Bay Minette to lead the invocation, followed by the pledge from Commissioner Grunlow. And when we do the pledge, the veterans may surrender a hand salute at that time. Thank you.
Lord God, we call to mind as always that we are in your presence. We thank you for your many gifts and blessings and benefits, chief among them your Son, Jesus Christ. We thank you as we have observed the independence of our country, for this great land of ours, for this nation founded on freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom of thought, so many other freedoms that you have given us that are inalienable rights. We are honored and privileged to have with us this morning members of the greatest generation, those men and women who have given themselves in service in the conflict in World War II. We thank them for their example of selfless sacrifice. And we remember all the men and women who have given their lives on foreign shores and who continue to serve to protect our freedoms. Lord Jesus Christ, you taught us that if anyone would be truly great in the kingdom of God, he or she would become the servant of all. Through the power of your Holy Spirit, open our hearts and open our minds to those words. May we embrace them as fully as your love embraces us. And as we continue to serve one another, may we continue to build here on earth to the best of our ability, to the fullest of our potential, a kingdom, a city, a nation that mirrors your kingdom of truth and justice in heaven. To that end, God, I ask you to bless all those on this county commission who have dedicated themselves to our service. And may our time together in this meeting be consecrated in your name to God through the power of the Holy Spirit. To that end, Lord God, bless us and keep us now and always. Amen.
Amen. Y'all will stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Chairman, first order of business is adoption of the meeting minutes from June 14th and June 15th, 2010.
Been a motion made by Commissioner Bishop,
Second, Mr. Chairman.
seconded by Commissioner Grunlow. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next.
Mr. Chairman, next we have awards, recognitions, and presentations. You have 3 items before you today. The first item is item B1. This is regarding the South Alabama Honor Flight, honoring World War II veterans. The staff recommendation here is to recognize and honor the tremendous service and sacrifices of America's greatest generation and express our sincere gratitude to these historic World War II veterans who traveled to Washington, D.C. in May to visit and reflect at their national memorial. And we have Ms. Susan Lovett here today to speak to the chair.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
A few weeks ago, Commissioners began to say, when are we going to have another celebration of the veterans who traveled to Washington, D.C.? And I thought, what better time than this, just after we celebrated our country's independence. And so here we are on July the 6th to honor another group of veterans. And I'm delighted and humbled to be in the presence of many, many honorable individuals. We're in the company this morning of heroes, men and women who've served our country in uniform and have fought to preserve our nation's freedom. The Commission has chosen this day to express their sincere gratitude for your dedicated service and for the great sacrifices that each and every one of you have made. You are truly America's greatest generation, and may God bless you and may God bless America. This is a great day in Baldwin County. And at this time, I'd like to get a couple of announcements out of the way. If John Jackson would come and address you for a moment, we'll get some of the items of interest out to you first.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here today. A couple of announcements. I wanted to let everybody know here that we're taping this today, and if you want a copy of the DVD of this program, see us at the archives. Give us a call or come by the archives. My name's John Jackson. Our number is 580-1897, and I'll be here for the next several minutes. If you want to talk with me, I'll give you the information you need. Plus, we've got the previous DVDs available as well when the previous flights were honored at the Commission meeting. Also, you can see this on Channel 5 on Mediacom Cable. And it's also available on video on demand. So if you go to video on demand, if you have cable, you'll be able to, in a week or so, to access it anytime you want to. So you don't just have to wait on it to loop on the Commission channel. You can see it at any time you want to by ordering it. Doesn't cost anything, so you can definitely do that. One other thing, the photographs that you guys brought and left for the presentation will be available for you out here at the desk, just outside in the lobby, before you leave, so you can pick those things up. But it's wonderful to have you here. Make sure if you want one of these DVDs, to see us at the archives or to see me today, and we'll take care of it for you. And one other thing, we will be, and I know some of you have been to these before, be having our Veterans Day appreciation again this year in Robertsdale at the Baldwin County Coliseum. The announcement on the time and date will be forthcoming. We'll have something for you there again as well. And this month, on July the 24th, it's Saturday, we'll be having a ceremony at Bicentennial Park where we'll be dedicating the Civil War Monument, which is a monument to both Union and Confederate forces during the American Civil War, at our park. That takes place at 11 o'clock on July the 24th, so if any of you would like to come to that, please feel free to do so. Gentlemen, that's all I have. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
This morning, I'd like to recognize an individual that has worked tirelessly to see this dream become a reality, and we want to thank Dr. Barry Booth from the bottom of our hearts. If you would come forward, Dr. Booth.
I'll be back up here in just a minute, but I appreciate the thought of the Commission and want you to know that, as I've stated on many occasions to everyone, that there's no successful effort handled by any one person. It takes a tremendous effort on the part of many, many volunteers that are passionate about what they do, as I will indicate later, to make a project winnable and put so many smiles on so many faces in so many places. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Mr. Peck, come forward.
Before I make the presentation, I'd like to explain this picture. The young man who painted it, Tom Nielsen, grew up as a neighbor of ours in Clinton, Iowa. He's a Vietnamese veteran. He served a year on the riverboats on the Mekong Delta, and he served a year on the USS Ranger, an aircraft carrier in the Pacific. The picture was painted in 1998 when he was a member of the graphics art department in the Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C. The ribbons that the eagle has in its claws are 6, and they represent the colors of the service ribbons that were given to the servicemen for those wars. It is a print of the original, which is still in the VA in Washington. And Barry, on behalf of the veterans here, we'd like to present this to you, and the inscription reads, "To Dr. Barry Booth, in appreciation for all you have done and continue to do for the veterans of South Alabama." Thank you.
I heartily accept this on behalf of the entire Honor Flight team, the Guardians, and all the volunteers that make our project successful. Every one of them has a part of this. Thank you so much.
I'd like to recognize Sheriff Mack here this morning. Several of the other elected officials had prior engagements, but they expressed their regrets that they were unable to be here this morning. At this time, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen over on the right. I had a purpose when I asked you to send those pictures to me, and hope you enjoy the presentation.
Morning again, Commissioners. It's certainly befitting for us to be here on one day post-Independence Day, because these men and women are why we are independent today. Don't forget it. Pass it on to your children and your grandchildren. Give them the opportunity to be the patriot that our nation needs. It's certainly good on the part of Miss Margaret and myself to be in the company of y'all again. And we do appreciate them being in uniform, don't we, Mark? Great. On behalf of the entire Honor Flight team, I want to thank each of you on the Baldwin County Commission, and certainly Mrs. Lovett for putting on and directing this magnificent event for our World War II veterans. Honor Flight 3 was successful because of the significant financial and emotional support from our public officials in Baldwin County and Mobile County. The school children of both counties, those ever-present so-called strangers who felt so moved to come out to the airport and honor those who served to protect our freedoms and liberties. I am continually amazed, as is Miss Margaret and the rest of the Honor Flight Corps, and probably most of y'all, at the level of community enthusiasm that's generated by the Honor Flight South Alabama program. It is truly amazing. Colonel Pat Downing, who is our Director of Guardian Training, continues to instill in his corps of devoted guardians our concern for the safety of our veterans. We're all aware that their safety is paramount, and we're comforted by the presence of our in-flight medical team from Spring Hill Memorial Hospital. We will continue the Honor Flight program to follow Colonel Downing's personal message that any World War II veteran that wants to go to Washington will not be left behind. Make sure that word gets out to your fellow veterans' friends, your family, and anyone you know that might be interested. With the security arrangements under the able guidance of Colonel John New and precise operational control by Commander Pete Ream, Honor Flight 3 was truly another great Honor Flight day. And remarkable moments happened to them on May the 12th, when 65 years ago they were fighting with such strength and determination against unbelievable adversity. Our Honor Flight Day was full of memories, beginning with the Blue Light Special. Everybody remember that? For those of you who don't know about that, it's the Mobile Police Department and the Alabama Highway Patrol. There are so many motorcycles and blue lights out there, they close off the westbound lane of Airport Boulevard from Fort Whiting all the way to the airport, so it's nonstop. And these veterans want to go to the airport every time like that. But as the policemen indicate, they have more fun than you do making all that noise and flashing those lights. Well, we had that Blue Light Special trip down Airport Boulevard, through the mail call on the plane with the cards and pictures from all the children from Mobile and Baldwin County. To the moment they landed in Reagan National, they were surrounded by people who were in awe of these Alabama veterans. Children came up to them all day long. They want to shake their hand, they want to hug them, have their pictures taken with them. There was one Oriental couple who came up to me, and they had two little kids with them, and they wanted to know if it'd be all right if they could have their children's pictures taken with our veterans. Now, what a moment that was. But it was all day long. It wasn't just at one memorial. It was at every one of them. And for y'all that don't know, that Governor Riley flew in early from Montgomery to be with our veterans on their takeoff at the Mobile airport, to sit and talk and shake hands, pictures taken, and he wanted to hear their conversations about their travels and adventure. Everyone was touched by these expressions of admiration, affection, and appreciation, and a sincere gratitude. These memories will remain with us, all of us, till our last days. It was a great day in Washington, but it was topped off by that ticker tape parade through the Mobile airport. And I want to quote from a veteran. He says, "A special thank you to all who welcomed us home as heroes at Mobile Regional Airport. It was awesome, and my heartfelt gratitude goes out to all involved, including the wonderful staff of the Mobile Regional Airport and, of course, of our charter airlines, U.S. Airways." Now, I'd like for Ms. Coley to come up, because, you know, the party that you had at the end of that flight was organized, choreographed, and presented first class by Mrs. Margaret Coley, and I want each of you to know her. Miss Margaret?
First of all, I want to thank the commissioners. This is the third time we've been here, and I'm very grateful. I stand in awe at your, as Dr. Booth said, your financial support, but also your tremendous emotional investment in these heroes out here. And to you, I say thank you. This is the third time that I say thank you from me and my grandchildren. Last time, there were 6 of them. This time, there's 7. I have a new one. Born on my birthday, July 1st. So, but I say that because you made this world a better place for them. Dr. Booth and I have been on a mission not only to honor you all, but to go into the schools and share your rich history with our school children. Mr. Robinson, wave your hand. He went to Denton Middle School with us and shared his story. He touched the hearts of those children. A lot of them were at risk, and when we left, they were a lot better off than we went. I want to invite all of you again to Honor Flight, what is it, Dr. Booth?
4.
Honor Flight 4, September 22nd, to come out to the airport. There will be another group of you who will have the honor to fly and visit the memorial. Mr. Johnson over here, went to church with him for many years. At the very last minute, he became ill and was in the hospital. He called me 2 or 3 days after we'd already had the NDOC meeting and was concerned as to whether or not he was going to get to go. He got well enough. He persuaded his doctors to say he was all right and he could go. And he tells me today that he had a trip of a lifetime. I sat by Ms. Waller over here, and she says, "That's my husband over there without the shirt on." He says his is too little. If there's a larger one, if we have a larger one, I'm going to send it to you. She says he was on standby. Got to Fort Whiting at what time? 4 o'clock in the morning to see if he could get on the plane. And he did. And he had a wonderful time. His health was fragile, and he built himself up until that particular day so that he could go. And I am so proud and honored that you got to go. Thank you, Baldwin County. I can't say enough for what you all have done to make the program successful. A lot of people thank Dr. Booth. You can't thank him enough. He has done something that nobody else probably could do, and that is to make this Honor Flight program what it is today. I want to thank all of you for being the heroes of our day. and the heroes of yesterday, and mostly for the heroes of our children of tomorrow. And I'll see you all at Mobile Regional Airport on September 22nd.
We have a couple of veterans that would like to say a few words, and it's always great to introduce them. Mr. Loper? Come on up, please, sir.
Morning. I want to let you know that I lived out here by Bird Creek when I was about that big. You know where Bird Creek is? I imagine you do. But anyway, Daddy worked for Dr. Chasen, and that name is familiar around here. And we run a big term time camp out there, and my sister and I and about 500 little black young'uns had a ball. And I appreciate y'all inviting me.
Thank you.
And we got the biggest guy in the world wants to say a few words, Mr. Saban.
You only know it. I used to be 6 foot until I got married 63 years ago. I'd like to say thank you to the commissioners, all the children, all the business and everybody else that contributed to this trip. And the biggest thanks to Barry and his staff. I have never, I've been in management schools and everything else. I have never seen an organization set up the way this thing is set up. Amen. And also I'd like to thank the people. Barry said at the beginning that there's no such thing as one person do it. A professor told me in college, I is the smallest word in the alphabet, but the biggest word is we. And we as veterans from every branch held together, and that's what made this country the way it is. Thank you.
One more veteran I want to call up here. He's always eligible for a personal event. You know, he's almost got his own agent by now, and that's Mr. Archie Robinson. Mr. Archie drives about 100 miles to make every personal event that we request of him. He's been to many schools and has a great message for these kids. And he's got a bigger smile these days too, don't you?
Showing you all. First of all, honoring the good Lord who is the head of my life and able me to be here this morning. Amen. Secondly, I appreciate the letter that I got from the Baldwin County Commissioners inviting me down to be here this morning. I'm very proud to be here. I've enjoyed thus far. And Dr. Boone has done a great thing. I believe back in the month of April, I happened to call my cousin, Aubrey Fuller, down in Baldwin County, and I was going to Montgomery to the VA the next day, and I was telling him about I had been trying to get up with the honor flight. He says, I can help you out on that. Says, I got to go to Montgomery tomorrow, and I bring you application. So I said, well, give me your cell phone number, and I'll call you when I get to Montgomery. So he got to Montgomery after I seen the doctor. I called him, and he says, I'm at the hotel. I said, well, meet me on Eastern Boulevard at the Golden Corral. We have dinner. And so while we was having dinner, his wife filled out the application. 2 weeks later, I got a call, can you come to Albalsia Park? I said, yeah, I can come down there. So I went down, had Dr. Booth down there, and his dog's on the back of his truck. So he found Aubrey and I. So they messed around there, and then we had a little meeting, and Mobile was over there taking pictures and so forth, and it passed, I don't know whether that gentleman here today or not. Old fellow was retired from the Air Force, and he was a pilot, and so he was in a wheelchair, and they give him and I letters. And we looked, and we was on the next flight to Washington. I'd like to have a fit. I told Dr. Boo, hugged me. I said, man, don't hold me too tight. I ain't no woman now. So I was happy. I couldn't say what I wanted to say because I was on the air. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I don't want to prolong your time. That's a great man. You don't let nothing hold him back, and then of all his good teeth in the mouth.
Mr. Robinson was involved with Honor Flight long before he knew about it, as is so many of others also. Well, I want to take another moment here to read one last quote from another veteran. He says, "Our trip to Washington was a day we will remember and cherish for the rest of our lives. The Honor Flight team of volunteers and guardians truly made us feel like heroes. Tell them thank you and that they are our heroes, and we thank you for that." Here they are. They're calling us heroes, Miss Margaret. Something's a little backwards, isn't it? Well, this is just a testament to the quiet and humble lives that they have lived, but it belies the tenacity with which they fought and saved our lives and the life of our nation. You know, to the rest of the world, our men and women of World War II, they were just soldiers. But to our families and our nation, they were and remain to be our world. Because they prevailed, we are able to live our dreams. It is certainly befitting to give honor and respect to each of them before it's too late. I want each of you in this room and each of you at home to realize the important role that you play in our Honor Flight program. It's your continued encouragement and support that keeps us flying. And now we go on to Honor Flight 4 in September, when we will gather and we'll build another load of excitement filled with the happy hearts of veterans and guardians. Believe it or not, it was a happy day, even though I get a little upset. I want you to know once again that it's a personal privilege to be a part, Miss Margaret, I know you feel the same way, that we are a part of a powerful team of passionate volunteers working toward a single goal. Commissioners, thank you again, and Ms. Levitt, thank you again for this morning. It's always a delight to be here in the presence of these heroes which you honor so well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Booth.
At this time, if you hear a song that you recognize, I want you to stand up. The Army, of course. The yours. Coast Guard. And the Marines. Give everybody a hand. Now I'm going to pass the mic around. I'd like for each one of you to introduce yourself.
I'm Fred Centelli. I was in the U.S. Army from 1941 to 1945.
I'm Ernest Bishop from Fayetteville, Alabama, in service from 43 to 45. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Bob Holt, U.S. Marine Corps, service from 1943 to 1979.
Archie Robinson, U.S. Army, 1943, 1946, invasion of the Philippine Islands, 1944, Okinawa, April Fool's Day, 45.
John Benson, U.S. Navy, USS Indiana, BB-58 battleship, and I served from 1953 to 1943 to 46, and I joined the Air Force and retired from Air Force.
Joe Spotswood, United States Navy, 42 to 46, served on the USS Augusta CA-31 heavy cruiser. The D-Day invasion, Normandy and southern France, and retired from the Navy in 46.
I'm Artie Waters. I served from January 43 to February 46. I was with General Patton's 3rd Army, Infantry.
I'm Jerry Bethea. I was in the Air Force in South Pacific. I joined MacArthur in Australia. I put in 53 low combat missions, A-20s and A-26s. I was flying Tokyo Bay the day they signed the treaty. We went from New Guinea back to the Philippines, to Okinawa, Iwo Jima, and Japan. I spent over 4 years in the Air Force.
I'm Mark McKeithen.
Dr. Boots, can I say something about patriotism?
Sure can.
Sure, go ahead.
I was in the Navy, went to the Solomons, and I went to the Russell Islands first, and then to New Georgia, Siggy Point, before Munda was ever invaded. And then the third island I was invaded, they commandeered about 75 of us. The Essex, which y'all all probably know about, pulled into the harbor and it had been shot to pieces. It was listed. I had a good friend who had a brother aboard. He didn't know where he was dead or alive. So we commandeered really a little launch, and we went out there, and his brother fed us breakfast and asked us would we like to go back to the States. That the skipper had got Halsey and Nimitz permission to take it back because it was a famous ship. And didn't want, first Nimitz wanted to sink it. We came back into Pier 19 at San Francisco, and we had all of our stuff was back into the Russells at rest camp. And Warren's brother told us, well, the yeoman's would take care of all that. It'd catch up with us in about 4 months, all of our stuff. And they give us out of uniform passes. And we give us that night and the next day to the next afternoon, Liberty. Out of uniform passes, and it said USS Essex, out of uniform pass. And all we had was dungarees on. We checked in at a hotel. They wouldn't let us pay for a room. Every time we went to a restaurant, now this was San Francisco. Every time we went to a restaurant, they wouldn't let us pay for our food. Back then, this was before I was a Christian and I was drinking. Later on, when I got home, I joined the church when I was 7 years old, gentlemen, and I didn't know nothing. Now, my mama knew that I was lost, and she kept saying, son, please go to church. Well, anyway, that's another story, but I got saved then. But everywhere we would go, they wouldn't let us pay for nothing. They were so patriotic. Well, I want to tell y'all, when we went on this honor flight, I hadn't seen patriotism since that day in Frisco. I had children that walk up and would shake my hand. And I had people to come up. There was a lot of tourists and shake my hand. Do you know these people still love this country? And we're thankful for this honor flight. Now, my name is Oscar Merck McKeithen, and I went in February the 5th, 1943 into the amphibs. I volunteered. And then I was also, when I got back, we volunteered to go on the Essex to get back. But then I was put on the Shangri-La, and I was sent to the Marshall Islands again. I came back before the war was over in Japan. They sent me to the Marshall Islands. I was on Bikini Atoll, and I was one of 425 put on the flight deck, and all they gave us was a pair of glasses, sunglasses, and there was 6,000 sealed inside the ship. The 425 of us, when they dropped the atom bomb, and we was right outside the harbor, and it was under an LST in the harbor, they give us the glasses so that the heat explosion wouldn't burn our eyes. But we stood up and went through the mushroom cloud. Let me tell you, people love this country still. And thank God, I thank God for my nation and my country.
I'm Bill Malashi. I'm served from 1942 to 1945. I was with the 8th Air Force, 351st Bomb Group in Polbrook, England. I was a B-17 pilot at that time.
Here. I'm David Allen. I went into service in 1942 of May and discharged in 45 in September. I was on the USS Submarine Seahorse made 6 patrol runs, and we probably ended up being in the top 5 submarines during World War II in amount of tonnage sunk. And so we did pretty good while we was out there.
This is my dad. He was on the first honor flight, and he likes to come back and meet all these that are on the second and third. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Joe Dykes. I was a U.S. Marine Corps Staff Sergeant. I was on the invasion of Peleliu in September 1944. We lost several thousand Marines on that invasion.
I'm Marvin Carpenter. I'm in the U.S. Coast Guard. I went in 1943 to 46 on the USS Bayfield. I made Normandy, Southern France, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. And I made a career in the Coast Guard, got out in 1970.
I'm Curtis Hass. I was on 426 Medical Battalion. We supplied the ambulances and clearing ambulances for the front lines. And I was in from 1943 to 1947.
I'm William H. Bill Johnson. I took my training at Infantry Replacement Training School in Little Rock, Arkansas. Was shipped to Germany, where I was assigned as a rifleman to General Patton's 3rd Army, 359th Infantry Regiment of the 90th Division. My time was from 1944 to 1946. Thank God I made it home.
Melvin Tarver, served aboard the USS Nevada in the U.S. Navy with my brother Eddie Tarver. We was in the invasions of Iwo Jima and Okinawa. Stayed in there, and Lord protect me, and I'm here to tell you about it. Praise Him.
I'm Dick Peterson, U.S. Navy from 1940 to 46. I was a flight instructor for some time and then ended up in USS Pasadena, the Iowa, New Jersey, and St. Paul, and then continued on in the Navy to 1972 when I retired.
Ben Williams. I was in a bastard regiment that went to Norway in 1945 on June the 6th in the infantry, and our mission was to process them Germans that the Russians ran up through Finland and back into Norway. And I guess the most memorable day I had was on June the 7th, 1945, when King Haakon came back to Norway and they roped off the center of Oslo, and we danced all night in the center of Oslo.
Jim Devaney, Army 1941 to 46, Battle of Normandy in northern France.
Frank Mennonite, I served from 1943 to 1946 in the United States Marine Corps.
Nina Seacrest, started out with a cadet nurse corps, started in 1942 and ended up at San Diego Naval Hospital.
My name is Wally Sabin. I was in the U.S. Submarine Service from 1943 to 1946. Served in Pacific, the first 2 patrols, like the fellow submarine over there. The first 2 patrols, we saw in excess of 29,000 tons.
Albert Peck, cryptographer with the Army Air Force, 2 years in the South Pacific as a cryptographer from 1942 to 1946.
Paul Wyckoff, pilot, B-29, South Pacific. Flew a few missions there and got home safely.
William Waller, in the Army, excuse me, in the Army from 43 to 46, the Battle of the Bulge, and then in France.
I'm Richard Cassidy. I joined the service in January, first day of January 1942, and I retired in 1970. I'm a three-war veteran, and I was, this is the one I'm proud of, because we won this thing.
Amen.
I was a veteran of the Korean and Vietnam War, and we lost the damn things. And I hate to even think of it, but I'm so proud to be a part of this group here, because we did it, we fixed it.
I'm Pete Duffy. I was in the Navy on 2 ships, small carriers. I joined CPA 5 weeks after I joined.
Robert Loper from Chatham. I went in the Navy in '39 after Daddy bought the farm and had that mule, and 2 years of plowing a mule, you'll do anything. But I had the North African invasion under my belt and a lot of runs up to Murmansk, and then I went to the South Pacific and the whole MacArthur back from Australia back to the Philippines, and I survived, and I'm still kicking. Thank you.
Oscar Kirkland, Corps of Engineers, Army, 1943 to early 46.
T.J. Brown, United States Navy, 1943, 1946.
Leroy Gilly, and from 1943 to 1966, served in both oceans of combat duty, U.S. Navy. At 2 years I was chasing hurricanes down in the Caribbean. If anybody wants to hunt up a hurricane, they can go down there and find them.
I'm Dan Dennis. I was in the U.S. Navy from 1943 to 1946, and I would personally like to thank Dr. Barry Booth and his staff and the Baldwin County Commission for honoring us today.
I'm John Klein. I entered the U.S. Army in 1943. I stayed in the Army until 1975. Retired in 1975. Spent all my time in the infantry.
I'm Robert Marshall, enlisted in the Navy December 7th, 1943. Discharged in 1946. I got married, and I figured the Air Force was more conducive to married life than the Navy, so I joined the Air Force and retired in 1972.
I am John McKinley. Being with all these veterans, I found out that I'm the youngest veterans in the group, and I honor each and every one of you guys as being my hero. I served 2 years in the Army, 4 years in the Air Force, and I personally thank each and one of you. Thank you.
Darrell Rochford, U.S. Army, 1944-46. I spent about a year in France, Germany, and Austria.
I'm Dallas McElroy. I went in 1943 and got out in 46. I went to Europe. I was in a combat engineer battalion, and we fought the war with a shovel.
Buenos F. Thomas, and I went in 1943. I had training in the States and went to Hawaii, and from Hawaii we boarded LSTs, and we hit Guam, Maniwituck, and wound up on Okinawa. And any of you that were there in 45 and 4th of July, we had the fireworks because the Japanese slipped into our ammunition depot and blowed it up. And of course, the president ordered it ended in August, so I was lucky enough to get to come back to the States about December, and I was assigned the last year as Sergeant Major's assistants, training new lieutenants my last year, and I'm glad I'm here.
I'm Vic Rupert. I was in the U.S. Maritime Service, better known as the Merchant Marine, and from 42 to 47. And I don't have time to tell you every place we were, but we brought the fuel for the Navy ships, the aviation fuel for the planes from the aircraft carriers and everything, and it was a great experience, I'll say.
Bill Russell, U.S. Navy, on the Harry F. Bauer, destroyer miner in 46, with escort 4 aircraft carriers. And when we say God bless America, you need to think about it. Because before I was assigned to that vessel, it was in the South Pacific, took a torpedo, went through the hull, didn't basically lose anybody. Patched it up, sent it back to the South Pacific, took a direct bomb hit, went down into a fuel tank on the vessel and didn't explode. So there's somebody looking out after all of us. The thing that I would like to pass on is that freedom isn't free. And that what we need to pass on to the ones that follow us is that we're one of the few nations, or the only nation, to my knowledge, that has ever founded on the basis that all men are created equal with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what else of these people have contributed, these veterans, is to pass that on to the next generation.
I'm George Davis. I served with the U.S. Army in the South Pacific on New Guinea.
Jake Boyan, United States Marine Corps, 1943 to 1979.
Mark Arnold, United States Marine Corps, 1943 to 1977. I tell people about these honor flights that if all of our military operations through our various wars had been as well organized, as well conducted as these honor flights are, each of our wars would have ended 3 years earlier. And anytime I'm given the chance, I say, remember those who are doing it today.
Tom Shell, U.S. Navy, active duty from June 1941 until October 45, being in the Medical Service Corps, which of course, as all of you realize, serves also the Marines, and I had the pleasure of serving with the 3rd Marine Division in the Pacific. I was on Guadalcanal on the initial invasion of Bougainville and on the initial invasion of Guam, and then returning to the States. Thank
you. Russ Bartlett, U.S. Army Air Corps, 42 through 45. Spent a year in India, Burma, China, and flew 242 combat missions. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm so proud to be part of the honor flight. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Anton Whitty. I'm an Alabamian. I live in Gulf Shores. I joined the Navy in January of 1943. I got out 3 years later. The war was over, and then I went back in the Navy, retired after a total of 26 years as a Navy commander. I would do it again. Thank you, Barry Booth.
I'm Elaine Lordy, and I was a Marine, and I survived boot camp. And from there, I went to San Diego, where I showed the movies to all the fellows before they went overseas.
Let's give everyone a hand.
Commissioners, you know, we're here sitting up here and listening to all these ladies and gentlemen that have fought for our freedom so that we could have meetings like this. You know, and I commend each and every one of y'all for the sacrifices that y'all gave to make this country what it is today. And it means so much to so many people that a lot of people take it for granted sometimes. And but y'all are the ones that really went and sacrificed so much. Y'all went to a war that you had no idea when you was coming back or anything. And that's, you know, y'all to be commended for everything that y'all have done. And I thank you personally. Commissioner Burt?
I don't know what to say. Of course, being a young fellow, as I was telling one of you this morning, growing up on Railroad Street, watching the troop trains come through, and as they paused, waved at the kids walking up and down the street to mail their letters back home to the girlfriends or to the parents, and that. I remember World War II very well as a kid and a teenager here in Bay Minette, Alabama. So many of you represent the heroes that I knew right here in Bay Minette who went off. Some didn't return, some did, but those who did came back and didn't stop. They continued to school teachers or others that mentored my life. I just can't say enough for this wonderful generation of people and the spirit of the country that they had then, that y'all still bring to us here in a place like this. As the gentleman said, several of you indicated, we've been in Afghanistan 9 years. 9 years. What has happened to our leadership, whether it's Washington or wherever it is, in the military, Joint Chiefs, I don't know where it is, but if we could get the spirit and the desire back again that you had in 1941. I heard one gentleman just say on December 7th, he joined up. Lots of other folks did the same. They love this land, they love freedom, they love the world, they love others, and we not only won the war in 4 years, we went back and built the countries from Japan to Germany, all those that we conquered or won the battle from. We went back and built their lands and came back home. We didn't want anything from it except that people would have freedom. I cannot understand what is happening in this world today. I just wish, hope, and pray that we can get spirit back in this land that you had then, that you've brought to us today. And I believe it's rising again. I believe that the people of this nation, we cannot do it from the top down. We've got to do it from the bottom up, that we get this nation back on track to what we represent as a free nation. 234 years, I believe, ago, we started this free land, and we've been a beacon to others throughout the world. We can be again. We just got to get the hope and the spirit back that you've represented here this morning. I can't thank you enough. Thank
you. Commissioner Bishop?
Now, as a veteran myself, you know, we really can't express our gratitude and our sincerity to you, every one of you, for what you've done. You know, I went through the Army and so forth, but, you know, it's a different type of camaraderie. It's a different type of patriotism. It's a different type of Americanism. And you know, when you were there, you know, we I was a child, and we were coming along, seeing how America pulled together, and the things that our country was able to do by everybody coming together. There seems to be a lack of that and a loss in somewhere along the line. But it's the cooperation that you had and the willingness to work together as a team. It had the whole country behind you. That's what made this group so important for what y'all were able to do for our country. And I'm so grateful for you and proud of you. And I just can't say enough. Can't express it. But God bless America, and thank you very much for everything you've done for this country.
Mr. Grunlow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the third one of these that we've had, and I tell you what, it doesn't get old at all. It doesn't get old. I look forward to these times where we can recognize y'all and honor y'all because it's so very important, lest we forget. As Commissioner Gruber said, we have a tendency to take things for granted. We don't realize what we have until we lose it, and it's it's a shame that we have to lose something before we realize just how valuable it was. Y'all coming up here and being a part of our meetings, it helps us to remember. Heaven forbid that we ever forget your generation, forget the sacrifices that y'all made. Remembering is so very, very important. It keeps us tethered to our past. It helps us remember where we've been. It helps us to know where we're going. You've encouraged me. The spirit that y'all have, just going around the room and hearing some of the comments that y'all have made, I'm inspired by that. It causes me to want to go on. I hope those people viewing this program will be inspired as well, will be encouraged as well, that they also will remember and not forget. I just appreciate each and every one of you for your sacrifice, for your willingness to come, and pray that God will bless you in your years to come. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say one thing before we close this morning. There are many county employees behind the scenes that have worked hard to make this happen this morning. Paula Tillman, Earl Drinker, David Brewer, Steve Gottney, Ashley Stacks, David Villafana, Warren Donald, and not a county employee, but a very special person to me, my sister, who provided the music. And there's just many people behind the scenes that have worked to make this happen this morning.
Again, thank you again.